Hi YouTube. Hey, I wanted to talk a little bit about my new Renegade I just got. I got quite a few of them here, and I figured I'd talk a little bit about each one of them. But this is, of course, a 17 XXC. It's stock. I went and put, as you can see, blue springs on it. I want it to be a little different for the next machine, and then I put these blue hand guards on. So other than that, that thing is stock. I did do an exhaust wrap. You can see a little bit there, and I did the whole thing. It's actually a header wrap. I guess there's a difference in the exhaust wrap and header wrap. And while I'm back here, one thing I'm going to say, this can is pretty heavy. I was really surprised at how heavy it was. I have a Raptor 700 with a full Barker's dual exhaust, and I bet you that whole system is lighter than this can and this little stretch of exhaust right here. So it's real heavy. On top of maybe a little bit of horsepower gain, if you change it out, you're going to probably be saving some weight. So anyway, while we're there, the other thing I'm doing to this is just playing with some spring adjustment. And let me point out a couple things. A little bit of an irritation. I don't know. Maybe I'm too picky, but okay. So this is an XXC. This is pretty much, you're paying a couple $1,000s more for these Fox shocks. And if you look at it, you've got all these threads, all this adjustment. But if you're light like me, I weigh about 140, 50 pounds maybe with gear. And for me, I'm thinking I might have to go up to get it a little bit closer to my weight and the way I want to ride. But I can only go so far before the tension comes off the spring, and then you got the spring bouncing around and wiggling all over the place. So you got to have a certain amount of pressure on the spring. And don't forget, if you guys are going to be adjusting these on any four-wheeler that would have these type of shocks, you want to do it with the tires off the ground. Otherwise, you know, when you go into a hole or something and your tire drops down, you're going to have no tension on your spring. So anyway, I don't know how far I can go, but I bet you in another inch, maybe two, I won't have any adjustment. So there's all this adjustment up here, maybe most of it that you can't even use without changing the spring. And then, if you can see, there's very little threads left. So if you're a heavy guy, say 250 pounds, 300 or more, you quickly are going to run out of adjustment. This is supposedly set up for about a 180 pound rider. So if you need more spring pressure for your weight, then you're pretty much there. And so you're going to go spend a bunch of money on the XXC, and you're going to have to change at least a spring anyway. So it might be good to look at the cheaper version, just a basic Renegade instead, but I guess that is up to you. So I thought I'd point that out. You know, it seems like if you're going to pay top notch for a machine and get these nice Fox shocks, they would have, you know, maybe done something a little bit better. You know, they got all this threading up here that you really can't do anything with, and then you're certainly pretty much maxed out almost from going any harder. So anyway, that's kind of what I noticed here as I was playing with my adjustment. And then another little irritation, and understand that when a guy buys one of these, he's paying a lot of money. I mean, 14 grand, and I haven't even paid the sales tax in my state yet. So, you know, it's a little easier to come up with some complaints versus, you know, a $7,000 or $6,000 or $7,000 Suzuki or Grizzly. But let me show you this pod. So here's this, if you can see it, here's this little gauge pod. Now this does not have heat at all. It does not show the engine temperature at all. Okay, and you cannot see your RPMs or speedo at the same time. You gotta select through it if you want to see your RPMs or if you want to see your speed. Now if you come over to my buddy's 15XMR, and the XTP Outlander will also have this gauge, but you got this really nice gauge set up here. This is awesome. This machine has temperature, RPMs, and pretty much everything you need, and you can see it all at the same time. Now obviously you can't put this big old gauge pod on a Renegade, I understand that, but what you could do, I've had a couple trail techs for different machines, and I know that Can-Am could have done something a little bit bigger, or even roughly the same size, and displayed your heat, RPMs, and miles per hour all on the same screen. So a little bit of an irritation there, but no biggie. Other than that, that pretty much covers my dislikes and irritations with it. I did order Can-Am's a receiver hitch for this, but it comes out really far, way farther than I thought, and it just has a hole that you can put your ball in, and I will maybe use that at times, but unless I have to pull a trailer, and most of the time I probably won't, I'm not even going to put it on because it adds quite a bit of weight, and it's bulky, and it hangs out, like I said, a long ways. I was kind of surprised. So anyway, I did get that, but it's not on there. And these are Can-Am's factory fender flares. Maybe I'll give you a little better look at it. I had to drill a hole here, you can see it, and then a hole here, and then you come into this factory part here, and I had to drill a hole here and a hole here, and pretty much the same thing on the front. You can see the two holes, or the two screws right there and right there, and you come up and then you've got one right here, and of course this one's already here. So there's a few holes, little holes you got to drill for the screws, but other than that, there's not much to them, and I think they fit really well. I was pretty happy with the way they fit. You know, they look maybe a little bit goofy, but I'm telling you, these things, I got less dirty riding this thing than I did my 16 Grizzly, and I'll talk a little bit about this Grizzly. But you know, it's got fender flares on it too, which I've done in another video about them, and I thought for a Yamaha accessory they were horrible fitment. But anyway, on to this thing. So there you can see the fender flares on it, and like I said, maybe a little goofy, but I like them. They did an excellent job at keeping me and the machine clean. And when I get back up to Idaho and I'm riding drier stuff, I'll probably take them off. I just save a little bit of weight, and just to make sure that, you know, maybe I don't catch them on a rock or something. You know, I don't really need them, so I probably won't have them on there. But as long as I'm down here in the south, down in Mississippi, riding this area, you know, I want them on. They do an excellent job, much better than I thought. So anyway, this machine, I've wanted one of these for a long time, and it is of course a 1000. But due to the price and the Visco lock, which I absolutely hate, I think is a horrible system, especially if you like to do a lot of slow technical crawling. It's not good at all. But other than that and the price is pretty much what kept me from buying one of these. And now that I've had one and I've ridden one, I'm kind of glad that I waited, because as some of you probably know, the 16 and 17 models come out with 7 more horsepower, and I'm sure more torque, because they put the Maverick heads on them, and the power is insane. You know, I've ridden big horsepower street bikes, crotch rockets, snowmobiles, motorcycles, all kinds of stuff, and this is by far the funnest machine I've ever been on. The power is really torquey. It'll wheelie without any problem. A little bit more than you want maybe, but that's what I wanted. I wanted a true sport, to go fast and maybe live a little bit on the dangerous side. So This does it. This does it for me. This is more fun than any other machine I've been on, and I love it. Despite some of the things I don't like, the price and the visco lock, which I absolutely hate. It's kept me from actually this Grizzly right here. If Can-Am would have had a better locking system, this would be an Outlander instead. But since it didn't, I went with this Grizzly, and the price had a little bit to do with it too, but partially because, you know, I got to pay extra money, probably about $1,000 to get a halo locker if I decide I need to go that route. So anyway, really hate that. But other than that, this machine is awesome. The power is incredible. Very fun, very fun. And one thing I was really surprised about is this thing rides more like my Raptor 700. It rides like a sport quad. I couldn't believe the characteristics were how close they were to each other. So a lot of fun. It steers good. It does good in tight quarters. A little bit stiff. I'm still playing with the suspension, but it is really stiff. That was one of my little complaints, but that I think can be adjusted out for my weight. So, man, I don't know. The thing is just a blast, an absolute blast. I doubt that anybody would get one and say, man, this just isn't really fun. I mean, if anything, it might scare somebody and they might almost be terrified to ride it, or maybe get themselves hurt. You know, it's a pretty radical machine, so you certainly wouldn't want to put your little 8-year-old kid on it, or somebody that's not experienced. And the other thing I might point out too is these wheels, if some of you may notice, these are not what comes on the Renegade XXC. These are what comes on the regular stuff. They're 12-inch, but they're gloss black. What comes on there is a bead locks, and they've got a shiny glass ring around it. The bead lock is shiny gloss. The wheel is just a matte, and I don't really like it. Plus, after cleaning my buddy's bead lock wheels, you can see he's already lost some nuts, and that happens on occasion. If you're in rocky terrain or you bump up against something, you can shear off one of these bolts, break those bolts, and then you can't get your bead lock off. They're a pain to clean, an absolute horrible, miserable pain to get all the mud out from around that, and I hated them. So when I bought my machine, I thought about it for a few days and decided I did not want those bead locks at all. And so the dealer traded me out, and I think they probably got a little better deal, but this is what I wanted, and I'm happy with them. So that's why the wheels are a little bit different, if some of you may notice it. But anyway, I guess that's probably it on this machine. Like I said, a few little complaints, but awesome machine to ride. A lot of fun, unbelievable the amount of fun that I've had on this thing, and I've only put 12 miles on it, so there's lots more to go. Here's my Grizzly, and I have made a couple posts about this, but basically I guess what I'll say about this is this machine rides extremely well. It is smooth, comfortable seat, comfortable ride. It's you know, perfect for somebody who's not looking for ultimate speed and performance. But my biggest complaint with this machine is it feels like you got 200 pounds on the back. It does not turn, it pushes. It has a problem with the push, and I've checked the alignment. I've had the dealer look at it. Everything up front is fine, but it just has, you know, it just has a little compartment there. It just has a problem with a little bit of a push. When you turn those tires, it does not follow those tires well at all. And the older Grizzlies that I've ridden did not have that issue, and neither does the King quads. I've been on several machines that don't do that, and I never expected this to do it, but it does. It has a little bit of a pushing problem, and it is not as good for technical riding. If you're going real slow and you're going in really tight quarters and over rocks, and you want your front end to stay on the path that it should, this one doesn't do it. Not like the Renegade, and and not like the Suzuki King quad over there. So that's a big downfall. Really irritates me that it does that. I find myself having to do more 2 and 3 point turns with it. But other than that, it's pretty good. The power was disappointing. I was expecting at least to be comparable to the King quads. You know, they come out with this new 708 dual overhead cam, two cams, and I kind of expected, man, it's going to be at least compatible with the 750 King quad, or maybe even the brute force to a certain extent, but it's not. I've been side by side with a 13 Grizzly, and it beat this, as you see with these tires. So not too impressed. I do have an EHS tuner that he got. I've got a 2R racing tip that I put on there. It does have a spark arrestor in there, and I do have a JBS Extreme clutch kit, and it comes with quite a bit of stuff there, the milled sheave and everything. And I've had to play around with that clutch because I lost 10 miles per hour, 15 or so from before, and I've had to play around with it. I didn't feel the grab that I was expecting and that I felt when I put a clutch kit on this King quad. So wasn't impressed when I did the mods, wasn't too impressed when I put the clutch kit. I did recently take the clutch apart. I took the old grease out, re-greased it, and made sure that it was right according to all the articles I've read and the videos that I watched. So and I've ridden it a little bit, and it seems maybe that the low end grunt has improved, and we'll see on top speed. I haven't been able to open her up yet, so I don't know if I've gotten my top speed, but I've kind of been somewhat limited to about 55, 60 since installing this clutch kit, and I'm hoping that going through my clutch again, I got everything right and solve that problem. I'd had somebody else do the work, so I wasn't for sure exactly everything they did, although I've taken the clutch apart a couple times before and it looked okay. Maybe too much grease, but anyway. So the power on this thing is not real exciting. A little bit disappointed in the power and the way it turns, but it's a pretty stable four-wheeler and an extremely cushioned ride. Way softer ride than this Renegade with these Fox shocks on. That should be real smooth, and maybe I'll get the adjustment right and it will be smoother. But this by far is one of the smoothest four-wheelers I've ever been on. They did an excellent job at making it ride good. My wife enjoys riding it. My grandparents, who haven't ridden it, but they would like it. And the power steering is awesome. Real smooth power steering. I've heard a few guys say here and there that, oh, the Can-Am's got the best power steering. It's easy and it's great. Well, yeah, it's definitely better than not having power steering, but it is nowhere near as good as the Grizzly, in my opinion. The Grizzly is as smooth as butter. It's, you know, you can ride this with a kid or carry a gun all day long and ride one-handed, and you're gonna be able to go the whole day. Power steering is awesome on this Grizzly. And on my grandparents' 750 King quad, it has power steering, and I like it too. It's real easy. I like both of them over the Can-Am, in my opinion. So good power steering on the Grizzly. And of course, it's got some good ground clearance without any lift on it. It's got arched A-arms in the front. Pretty good machine for a lot of it. I'm happy to have it. If ever things were to get tight, I would sell this and keep the Can-Am without a doubt. But this isn't a bad four-wheeler. It just depends on your type of riding. So that probably covers that. And basically, what I got to say with the Suzuki, it's been a great four-wheeler. We've used it hard. It's probably only got a couple thousand miles on it. It's an 06, no power steering, so that kind of sucks. But it's had a pretty hard life, and it's done really well. It's held up really well. I finally had to do some bearings in the back and an axle due to you know, it tearing, so that wasn't really four-wheeler's fault. And I've had to do a few bushings, but for the most part, this has been a great four-wheeler, and it turns. When you're out in tight stuff and you want that front end to stay planted and go where you're turning it to go, it stays planted, and it does. It's great. And with the clutch kit, this thing is quick. This one does not have a milled sheave. It's just your typical clutch kit, and I'm not sure exactly what that details, but the sheave is not milled, and so you do lose a little bit of top speed on this one. But the takeoff, the low and grunt is awesome on this thing for not really having anything done to it except the clutch kit and running these 28s. It's fun to ride. Other than the power steering, this King quad is fun to ride. I really like the King quads. The only reason I didn't buy a King quad over my 16 Grizzly is because, well, I thought the new Grizzlies were going to be better. I was listening to the reviews, and as they were starting to come out, and they were supposed to be this awesome quick machine and just all kinds of power. No, it was, if I would have been able to ride one and I know what I know now, I would have bought another Suzuki. But I guess the downfall, you know, two main downfalls I can think with the Suzuki is it does ride pretty stiff. It's a pretty hard riding four-wheeler. So a guy would probably want to change out some suspension. And the only other major complaint that I have is right here you've got your exhaust for the clutch. And in the event you're one of those guys that like to go into deep water, or you're getting yourself into a situation where the water's deeper than you expected, then you kind of got to water wheelie it, and you know, you definitely want to keep that front end up out of the water. Well, in this case, you're going to drown your clutch out when you do something like that, and usually if that happens to me, I'm able to get where I need to go, and I pull the little plug and I drain the water out. But that is a real stupid place to be putting that clutch exhaust. I think all four-wheelers should have everything up by the handlebars, at least up there somewhere. So that is an issue, and the hard ride. Other than that, I think the Suzuki is a great four-wheeler, reliable, and just a lot of torque. I think they have a lot more torque than any of the other 700s out there, except for, you know, the brute force, obviously, because it's a V-twin. But it's just between that and the Grizzly, they're both 700s pretty much. They're both dual overhead cams. The King quad it's just quicker. It is just got this grunt and this torque that you feel. It's great. The clutch kit just helped out a lot, and it's a fun machine to ride, minus the stiff ride and the power steering is a bit of a bummer. So anyway, hopefully this video has maybe helped some people out. Since I had all these three, I thought maybe I'd make some little video. I'm no video expert, so I'm sure I could have done a better job. But there it is. And if there's any questions, go ahead and comment, and I will try to get back to you, and hopefully help any of you with some decisions you might have. So thanks for watching.